This is Gary with Jolly Dolly, and I'm going to show you how to upgrade your Power Pro from lead acid batteries to a lithium battery pack. This video is intended for dollies that do not have a winch. If your dolly does have a winch, this is the wrong video. Your dolly will have 3 batteries that we'll be removing. In some scenes in this video, you'll see a 4th battery. That was because they were filmed with a winch dolly, but you can just ignore that. First step is going to be to lay the dolly down on its belly like this and make sure that it's turned off. You're going to remove the rear cover plate by first removing the Phillips screws that hold the plate on. Before you pull the plate off, locate the LED indicator lights on the rear panel and push them down into the dolly. Then when you lift it up, you'll be able to pull the LEDs clear and remove the cover plate. You want to remove all the battery terminal screws and disconnect the battery wires for the 3 drive batteries. You'll need an 8mm or 10mm socket for this. Be careful not to accidentally short out the batteries during this process. You're going to remove the battery tie-down bar using a 7/16 socket and ratchet. Once you get them loose, pull the bolts out, make sure to save all the washers. And you remove the battery tie-down bar. One of these batteries, usually the one all the way to the left, is going to have a temperature sensor taped to it right here. You just need to peel that off and temporarily stick it right there. Once you get the batteries out, you're going to want to remove this battery charger because we're putting a different one in. You just need a screwdriver for this. You should be able to just hold your finger on the nut on the back and it'll come right off. If you need to use a wrench, it'll be 5/16 or 8mm. The second screw is kind of hidden in the back here, a little harder to get to. Once you get the 2 screws out, you start disconnecting these wires. And go ahead and pull the charger out, and then you also want to get this AC wire out of here because that won't be needed either. With the batteries out of the way, we can now get to and remove the screws that are holding the old battery wires to the motor controller. Now when we take the screw out, you're going to notice that it's got a split lock washer on there. It's very important that we save that and reuse it. When you take the black wire out, you're going to notice there's a second wire held down by the screw. It's this skinny wire here. That's for the battery indicator, and it's very important that we set that aside and put it back on there with the new wires. Next, we're going to connect this battery connector wire to the motor controller right here. All right, we're going to connect the black wire to the motor controller first. Here we have our screw, and you notice we have our split lock washer on there. It's very important that that washer be used. Now we're going to go through this ring terminal first, then we've also got to go through this ring terminal, which is for the battery indicator. That was on there before you took the dolly apart, so it's got to go back on there. If you forget it, your battery indicator won't work. When you tighten these down, you want to make sure that the ring terminal bends a little bit so that everything is fully seated. Your red wire goes on top, again making sure that you have your split lock washer on there. And you want to tighten these down extremely tight as you can get them without stripping the screw. Alright, so we're going to insert the battery like this and lay it right in this compartment here. We're going to reuse the original battery tie that came with your dolly. Notice there's a divider right here. Make sure that's off to this side of the battery, and it's going to go right where it used to go. But we're going to add these spacers underneath it. So you're going to take your bolt with washers on it. It's going to go down through this bolt hole and down through the spacer pipe and then thread into the dolly. Then we're going to repeat the process for this side, again, with the bolt going through the battery tie, then down through the spacer pipe, and then thread into the dolly. It can be a little bit tricky to get this threaded or to get it started. But you just got to keep working it till you get it. Once both bolts are all the way down, the battery should have a little bit of movement, but not a whole lot. Now next we're going to connect the Anderson connector. That's this gray connector. That's what actually connects the battery to the dolly. So make sure it's turned off, and then we're going to go ahead and snap this connection together. Now we can go ahead and test the dolly by turning it on, just to make sure that the battery indicator comes on, and then we want to turn it back off and continue the installation. Now I'm going to show you how to use the template included with your kit to mount the new charger to the inside of the rear cover, and then drill a hole or holes in the cover for the charger LEDs so they can be seen from the outside of the dolly. In this video, we show you how to install the 5 amp charger, which has 2 separate holes that has to be drilled. It's a little bit bigger. Your kit may come with the 3 amp charger, which is a little bit smaller. It's only got a single hole, but if that's the case, you'll have a different template, and the process will be similar. You'll just be drilling the 1 hole instead of 2. You're going to take your back cover. We're working from the inside. This is the inside surface of the back cover. That's the top, that's the bottom. First, we're going to remove any remaining LED lights from the old charger. Okay, so we make sure this is oriented properly and that our template is also oriented properly. We're going to make sure the edges line up perfectly with the paper. Then we're going to take some tape, tape the paper. So for our holes, we want to use a punch. Put them right on the X. Give them a good whack. Now while I'm at it, if I want, I can go ahead and mark the corners. This would be a little bit more accurate way of locating your corners. The other way to do it is to lay this on the template. Make sure it's perfectly lined up. Then hold it down, remove your tape. I'm going to peel the paper up and mark with a marker on the actual cover on all 4 sides. Then we do away with this, and there we have our outline. If you use these marks instead, you can just draw a line, like connect the dots, and that's where we're going to drill our holes to view the new LEDs. So I'm going to be using a step bit like this to drill the holes, so I can start small and open them up. You can also use a small drill bit and then progressively larger ones. Prop this up on something and then drill these holes. Nice thing about the step bit, you can also kind of use it to deburr the holes. And there we go. And I can show you, if we take this and lay it right here and flip it over, you'll see the LEDs. And the bigger you drill the hole, the less accurate you have to be with the placement. I prefer just to keep them about that size. And then as you mount this, just make sure that they're lined up. So it's a good idea to wipe this off with a damp towel, just to make sure that this gets stuck good. And there's 2 ways to do this. You can either peel this, flip it over, and hope for the best, line it up with your marks, or the way I prefer to do it, just have to be careful doing this, is to lay it on the table, square with the table, and I'm going to peel the tape up, then I'm going to hover this over, and I'm going to find the LEDs, align it, make sure this is straight, and then push it down, and immediately flip it over and check it to make sure you're on your line. See, I'm off a little bit, but it should still fit. And it's already, you can see it's already locked, so I'm not going to be able to correct that, but that should work. Once you have the charger mounted, you can go ahead and connect it to the dolly. We'll start with the DC connector. That's this one here. That's going to snap together. Then you find your AC connector right here. That's going to plug into where the old charger plugged in. You can also electrical tape these connections together for added security. We're going to take our rear cover and turn it over and make sure we tuck all these wires in place and set the back cover down on the dolly. This should go right up against the cabinet. We need to make sure there's no pinched wires and that everything's tucked inside. Before you put all the screws in the rear cover, go ahead and plug up the charger just to make sure that it comes on and that you can see the red LED light. Once you're sure there's no wires pinched, you can go ahead and start putting your screws back. The last step is going to be to reprogram your battery indicator for lithium batteries. Hold down the top button until a number pops up, then release, and single press top button until you get to number 1. Single press bottom button, a letter pops up, single press top button till you get to F, single press bottom button until a number pops up, and then single press top button until you get to 12, and then hold down bottom button when you're at F12. Now you can cycle the power, and then when you power back up, it should say F12. Done. That concludes the installation process. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns. We'll be more than happy to help you. Thanks, and have a jolly day.